I don't feel like you're that type of soulmate, Emma.
Yay, because that made me sad too. I was like, oh my God. I think that's part of the reason I started because I was already feeling, it just keeps slapping me. This grief just keeps coming up with we keep saying imminent move. And it's getting more and more imminent by the day.
Yeah.
And so I'm just like very aware of it.
Hi, I'm Emma,
And I'm Lisa.
and this is There Are No Tangents.
Feels like I seen this all in a dream. What's the purpose of a human being? Never mind me. I'm just lost in my thoughts. What's the topic? Ain't no topic. Keep it going, no, don't stop it. Don't get the picture, then we grab it. With no emotion, what's the line? We just lost in our thoughts. Not on the surface, beyond that. Pull back the curtains, I'm on that. Once we take it there, ain't no going back. Don't be losing the topic, man. We gotta stay on track. Yeah, you so crazy, yeah, I know it. Tell me a story, like a poet. Yeah, like a poet. We getting lost in our thoughts. Welcome to the show. Emma and Lisa, they already on the roll. Are you ready?
Hello.
Do I want to ask?
I feel like I'm already tearing up. I'm already going to cry. So
Oh, it's okay if you do. It's okay
I
if you
brought
don't.
tissues and we may not put this one on YouTube.
I have
Oh,
full of toilet paper because I don't have any tissues.
yeah, 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 girl.
Yeah.
Um, I
We
don't
keep
know.
riding. Well, you are riding the emotional wave. I am taking in emotions and amplifying them for
Is
our
that what
human designs.
is that the splenic thing or
Well, but also because I'm an undefined sacral.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. Okay. See, I still have so much more to learn.
Yeah, don't ask me to explain that much more. But
Yeah.
that's just, yeah, that's kind of how it works for open centers.
Oh, yeah. That's
Yeah.
really interesting. And I
Mhm.
definitely, the emotional wave is real. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's rough. Just a lot of grief coming up and you can't control grief, which I hate. I really hate.
Yeah, I was going to say, where are you on the wave right now? But I think I know.
Oh, you do? Tell me.
I mean, well, actually, maybe it's kind of a question because to me, maybe it's sort of perspective based. So I don't even know because I don't really know what that experience is like. So maybe I don't know the answer. What I was thinking was like, I think um, you're in a state of difficult emotions,
Yes.
but where that is on the wave, I guess I don't actually know.
I don't actually know either. This is
Mhm.
the part I can't
Mhm.
seem to square for myself because when we talk about this, just for some context, like we're talking about decision making and those sorts of things, and like as someone who has emotional authority and human design, I need to feel the highs and I need to feel the lows, and then I need to wait before,
Mhm.
and so, but I don't know if I guess what I'm getting at is I don't know if it also applies when it's not decision making per se, because it's kind of not in this
Yeah.
particular
Mhm.
situation. I have found that somewhat helpful when I am considering decisions, but like this isn't like really a decision. It was just I was even before I read the articles that you sent me, I was already crying a little bit when I was making the kids lunches for school this morning. I was just like, didn't sleep great. And I found that when I feel a lot of anxiety in my body, one thing I think is happening is I actually think I'm trying to um, push grief or sadness away or something like that. And so it just amplifies that.
Mhm.
And then when I finally acknowledge and let myself go there, and then I cry, and then it's an inconvenient time. And then,
Mhm.
so it's like a whole thing. And then I kept it together pretty well. And then after I did my yoga and I was having breakfast and reading the articles you sent me, um, which I'm like, feel like I'm launching into a new topic and I want to get onto our actual topic.
No, go,
But
go, go with it. Go with the
the
tangent.
yeah, the tangent, the mini tangent. But you sent me articles about like soulmates and well, I don't know if you want to give like, I don't know if you want to I don't know.
I'm trying to figure out where to start. How did it start? You sent me something, right? Yeah, you sent
I
me
sent
some
you
posts.
I sent you some posts maybe on Instagram.
Yep,
Yeah.
about soulmates.
Yeah. And I just have questions around that. I've always had questions around that. And I want to say, I think it's the sixth line. I need to go back and read through stuff in human design that talks about that. And I was like, huh, it's interesting. What does that mean? So I've had that like planted, that seed.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I saw this thing that like grabbed my attention when I saw it. I was like, whoa. And then I sent it to you. And then you said,
Yes. And then I said, so first of all, I've been interested in the concept of soulmate for a while. And I had done some reading, just basic articles online, like nothing extensive, like a while ago. Because I'm just kind of fascinated by that concept, as well as twin flames and what that means. And so, but that concept has been on my mind lately, and I hadn't gotten back to, what it really means and types of soulmates and stuff like that. But the timing of your sending me those posts was just so like this is like important right now. So this morning I kind of, instead of journaling, I was like, what are soulmates? And so I started off with just like a throwaway article, but it kind of led me to some different places. But yeah, so there are different types of soulmates. And it's really interesting and really kind of sad in some ways, depending on the type of soulmate we're talking about. And then I got off into this other thing that was like a video, and he's talking about intentional synchronicities, and that's kind of really present for me too. So I kind of did my own tangent off after the fact, but I think my response to you last night, which was maybe sort of emotionally activating, was that because this has been on my mind, like, I feel like you're one of my soulmates, and I have some other people in my life who I feel like are soulmates. But then when we get into like the different types, and one of the things is like, some people can be a soulmate, but then they fulfill their role in your life, and it's just like, and you're done. And that really, really, really sad. So that brought up a lot of questions for me. Basically, I'm at a place of having a lot of questions. However, I don't feel like you're that type of soulmate, Emma.
Yay, because that made me sad too. I was like, oh my God. I think that's part of the reason I started, because I was already feeling, it just keeps slapping me. This grief just keeps coming up with we keep saying imminent move. And it's getting more and more imminent by the day. And so I'm just like very aware of it. Like, oh my gosh, like, it's like, I know I have like this much time left, and she's going to be gone this many days to go visit, and I'm just like, how many more times can we see each other? Like, it's just silly. And because I know it's not the last time I'm ever going to see you,
right.
But that doesn't help. I mean, like, it doesn't help, and
no, because it signals a major transition still. And we don't know what that's going to look like.
I know.
And we have some control over it.
Yeah.
But it's still like, we have no idea what to expect.
Yeah.
And so I think that's really hard. That's hard for both of us, for sure.
Yes, absolutely. The lack of certainty is excruciating. So yeah, it's just, it's just one of those days it hit me like, I don't know. And then, so when you said that last night, I was definitely like, oh my God, like, it was literally almost like, I was thinking about this when I couldn't sleep last night, and, and I felt like, this is such a weird image, but like, I felt like my heart, was like how do I want to say this? Like there's just like a little trickle of water at the bottom, and it was just kind of feeling depleted and like, I don't know. It's just, if to me, I was like, this feels kind of sad and whatever. And then, when I read that, it was kind of like, it was like, whoop, and like, it kind of got filled up a little bit with water or something like that. And I was like, oh, just like, that was awesome to hear. And then, I woke up a few hours after I'd been asleep, and I'm just like, oh no. And I can tell when it's like, when I'm ever going to be on the nights that I'm going to be able to fall back asleep versus not. And this was a not, like, it was immediately, I was just stewing. And so I kept trying to just like, just essentially just relax and just focus on like my breathing is one thing I'll often
I'm
do.
so sorry. I'm like,
Oh my God, no, it's okay. I know. I thought it was like going to be more me, which, oh my gosh, I look crazy. So yeah, we probably
look at me now, especially because the light is terrible and my face is like red.
crazy.
God,
Oh,
like
man.
we're not using this video. We're not Emma.
Sorry, peeps. I'm sure everybody's devastated. If you want it, we'll email us. There are no tangents at Gmail. DM us.
Contribute to our Patreon and you'll get this video. Okay.
That's right. We're going to start doing that. Oh my God. People are like, shut the fuck up and quit talking about this move. Like, but it really is. I mean, it just keeps hitting me. So anyway, when I couldn't sleep in the night, I was thinking about it, and I just felt very anxious, and I was just thinking about stuff. And, but then I remembered again, like this little soulmate comment, and I was like, and it was literally like my body just totally kind of relaxed. Like, I didn't go right to sleep, but it was okay. I don't know. It was nice. So then reading the articles, because like I said, I have wanted to understand this concept of soulmates. I don't really know where I stand on it. But again, for me, so much of this, when it comes to these different topics, it comes down to, what do we mean by this? So, when we talked about, for instance, like empathy, responding to emotions, being an empath, and I'm like, I'm still wrestling with like, is an empath a real thing? And what does that mean? Right. And so it's really hard for me to speak to things if I don't have a good grasp of what they mean. And so
if you haven't totally like bought into the whole thing. Yeah.
So, I have an idea conjured up in my brain about soulmates and what that means. And, before reading a little bit more that you had sent me, I guess I would have characterized it as, I believe that soulmates can be real, but like, I'm not sure if that's been my experience, or whatever. Like, I don't know, you know what I mean? I'm like, is it? I don't know. It's just a question. And maybe, and after reading your article, I was like, it made more sense that there could be different types of soulmates. And all of those were so powerful to read. And even if it's woo woo, and even if it's not real, something about it really, it really sparked something for me.
Yeah. Okay. So, I was walking the dog just a little while ago, and I kind of had this like little hit. So like, I mean, I don't know that much about soulmates either, but something that jumped out to me, like with our friendship and other relationships that I have or have had, it's like people like that you just connect with and you can just talk and whatever, and time doesn't exist. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like, I'm not saying that every person that you feel that way with is necessarily a soulmate, but maybe they are. Like, I don't know, because at least for me, that sort of experience is kind of rare.
I agree. I would need to think about that more, but I mean, I know that even, yes, what's coming up for me right now is like, yeah, I think that is rare.
Yeah. And, so this is something that we've talked about on past episodes, how, I don't like keep in touch with people very well, when they're not, in my presence, when I'm not nearby, or, I might think about somebody, but then I don't reach out because like that thought is enough of a connection, which maybe is its own thing, right? But when I think about that, those relationships that may have been like fun friendships or whatever, but haven't stuck over time versus the relationships I have outside of family, but the relationships I have that have kind of stuck over time. I don't even know like where to take that. But when I just kind of line up those people in my mind, those relationships feel so much more powerful for me. And so I can't help but think like, is this what soulmates are? Like,
Yeah.
Does that make
it does make sense. And is part of what you're getting at, and I'm not sure about this, but are you saying that maybe a common denominator with all of those people that you're wondering, could they be a soulmate? Is it that concept of time kind of feeling like it doesn't exist when you're with them or talking to them or?
Exactly. So it's not even just like kind of getting lost in their presence, the conversation, whatever. And time is just like you're not even aware of the passage of time, but also these are the people I could go weeks, months, years without talking to. But when I do, it's like the same.
Yes.
It's like time hasn't passed in between. So, I mean, when it comes to just like boring life stuff, there are things to get caught up on, but it's like, I know this person so well, it doesn't feel like time has passed in between. So it's like, it kind of works both ways, I think. But then again, what the hell do I know? I mean, this is just like, but it's been on my mind. This is exactly what's been on my mind. So yeah. And I can think of a person specifically who I'm like, maybe this was one of those soul contracts that was like done and it's time to move on. And, I can, in hindsight, look back and think like, that wasn't a great experience or, whatever. But then I can also look at it as I learned a lot.
Yes.
Through that relationship. And I was happy for it to end.
Yeah.
Or wasn't disappointed for it to end, maybe is a better way for us to no longer be, friends or whatever. But yeah, like I wonder if it was that sort of
exactly.
It served its purpose. And then
like there's no hard feelings. It's just
just done.
It's just done. And it feels complete, as we like to say.
Yes, complete.
Yeah. I'm definitely more intrigued by this concept, and I definitely want to learn a little bit more about what that means in my human design as well. Because I'm like, if I think about it in that way, where it could be multifaceted and it could mean a lot of different things and a lot of different types of relationships, like that's pretty cool to me. And I think so. Something that really stood out to me as like potentially like a common denominator type of deal as I was reading through those descriptions. And I think it was only mentioned in maybe there were like 12 different soulmate things or something like that. So this may have only come up in a couple of them, but I kind of feel like I could relate this to almost all of them. And it was talking about feeling just a pull or a magnet. It's like, just like my energy just wants to go there. Like, right. And that feels true for me. So I don't know if you relate to that.
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, here's what I found myself doing. Sorry. As I was reading each of the different ones, I was like trying to locate different people. And I was like, well, this sounds like it could have been this, but this type of soulmate could have also, like, you know what I mean? I was trying to kind of put the pieces together and I couldn't get there in every way. Plus, I was a little short on time. So I feel like I need to spend more time with it. But it seems pretty clear to me, like, here are the people over time who have been, if not consistently present, kind of ever present in a way. Somehow.
Yeah. That makes sense to me. Like, it's almost like they like kind of live on in your heart or something like that.
Yeah. And to be clear, again, I think you said this earlier, but just to reiterate, this doesn't mean romantic relationships specifically. These types of all the different types of soulmates, they do not have to be romantic partnerships. It's also friendships, or could be work relationships, or whatever.
That's right.
Yeah, it's just a romantic partnership.
Definitely. And I'll just throw in, like, if anybody is listening and they're like, I'm curious, I want to see that article, let us know and we'll send it to you.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. As well as this video on intentional synchronicity. It's a doozy.
Yeah, I would like to watch that. I was bawling and I was like, I can't. I'm kind of done. I can't watch that right now. But
it's better too at the moment.
One thing, okay, so because what we were I thought of a transition potentially to link this topic with the other topic of like your typing video / anything that would come up from that, is that, so Lisa did a typing video for Enneagrammer, and to, see what that is. And so she is not part of the Facebook group that is Enneagrammer. So she emailed her materials to them, but was like, I would be kind of curious what other people in the group have to say about this. And I was like, I put it in there for you. No worries. Like, people like to kind of play with that stuff. So I put her collages and her typing video in there. And, I had asked her the questions on the typing video, and we've got 2 or 3, I can't remember how many, but a couple comments anyway. And they're like, oh my gosh, I love your all's chemistry. Like, y'all are so cute together. Like, all this stuff. And I was like, I
have to say, it's especially meaningful to me because you weren't even on the camera at all. Right. We could hear you asking the questions, of course, but that's purely just based on like what people could experience through our dialogue. It wasn't because they saw us actually interacting.
Yes, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yes, which makes me feel better about this, the fact that this particular episode is probably just going to be on the podcast and not YouTube. But yeah, for sure. So hopefully that translates through this one as well. But yeah, it was meaningful because, of course, we have a podcast together, but also link again that like something about that like soulmate idea, right? Like, it's just like, it was so cool. So anyway, yeah. I don't know.
That was really touching. Yeah,
it was touching. I was like, I don't know, because people don't have to say that stuff,
No.
And I don't know. So that was pretty cool. And unexpected. But yeah, so you had some thoughts, obviously. You've had some things come up since you've recorded the typing video, and it's only it's been how many days? Like 3 days or
3 days or something. Yeah.
We
recorded it like a week ago, I guess, but we just posted it earlier this week, or you just posted it. Yeah. But in watching it back several times, because I guess I'm a narcissist too.
Well, I must be a narcissist for Lisa, or I don't know how that works, but I've watched it too because it cracks me up. Some of your answers, I'll go to my favorite answers, and I just, whenever I need to laugh, and I need to laugh a lot because I keep crying.
You laughing.
But anyway, okay.
Yeah. But first of all, it does kind of amuse me to see my response, and like, this is how people experience me, at least sometimes. So that's just interesting. We don't often see ourselves that way, in that sort of experience. So anyway, so it's kind of entertaining, but also we've talked about this one particular question, which is like, what have been your biggest goals and ambitions, or something like that. And okay, so I should have prefaced this all by saying, I had read through the questions months ago and watched your typing video that you submitted, right, which was like last summer?
Last summer. Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't that I had no idea what the questions were, but I didn't really remember, and I didn't prepare in any way. So it was completely off the cuff. Well, the one, like the city, whatever, but I already kind of knew that, And then like pet peeves, we've talked about. We have an episode on pet peeves. So,
Sure.
a couple of them were like kind of easy, but otherwise, anyway, so there's this question about what are your biggest goals and ambitions or whatever. And I had a splenic response to that, like, no.
Uh-huh.
And I didn't really tell you that, I guess, but that is how it was like a wall. I was like, mm-mm.
Mhm.
And so what I came out with was like, we probably, I guess maybe on our listener question episode where we talked about travel, I may have talked about wanting to be an archaeologist. I can't remember
Yeah,
because I was in
you did
Egypt.
because we talked about Egypt and yep, you did talk about that.
Yeah. So like that's my earliest memory of like a career that I might have been interested in. So I kind of got that out. Like I wanted to be an archaeologist. But
Mhm.
I've never had any goals, like whatever. And of course that is not true.
Right.
Right. I mean, even just, oh, I would like to become a coach and going through coach training. And then, like, of course, I've had tons of goals, right, throughout my life. But there was something in the moment where I was just like, how do I, and this
Mhm.
wasn't even like a conscious train of thought. It was just like,
Mhm.
I can't answer this right now. It's too much. It's going to require too much effort. It's going to require too much energy. I can't answer it.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so I'm going to basically say nothing.
Yes. That was a very hard question for me too, to answer. And as evidenced by the fact that I ended up like talking about other stuff and like, I mean, I talked about, I don't know, I had to go in a roundabout way. I had to go around the question and kind of like, I was like, well, it's not
Backdoor.
really like a goal. Like I have to get here. It's more like the person I want to become. And like, and then I go off and I think it might have been on that question. It might have been a different question, but I think it was that one. And I say something like, what's really interesting. And then I'm floating off into space or I say something like that. And I just take it like where's she going,
Yeah.
But anyway, so I can relate to that being a difficult question to answer. So
Mhm. Right. But my actual response was basically a lie.
well, and it is and to your point, because we've talked about this, right? Like it's so hard because it's like you think, well, it's going to be the most genuine, authentic, truest reflection of me if I just don't prepare for this and I just answer on the spot. And so maybe it is. I have no idea. But then as you think about these things more, you're like, oh my God, I like totally didn't even think about that. That's a huge thing.
Oh, but here's what's interesting. The words were a lie, but my response was completely authentic. Does that
Yes.
make sense? My
Yes.
actual response was 100% me.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely.
And so that I don't know what to do with that, but that is really interesting. And it also just kind of gets at like when we're put on the spot sometimes, it's just like, what do we say? I don't know. I'm not prepared for this. How do I it, and I don't know if this is maybe kind of an HSP thing or specific to certain Enneagram types. Maybe it's just kind of generally universally human. I have no idea. But like, oh, you want me to talk about myself? What do I say? Which was kind of my general problem with answering any of those questions. Like, I do a lot better in answering a series of questions, probably.
So what would be an example of that? Like, what do you mean? Like
I'm trying to think about one of those typing questions specifically. Um, okay, I'm going to try this one and see if maybe it's true or maybe it's not true. Maybe it doesn't work out. But so like maybe what are your best and worst qualities? I couldn't come up with any best qualities on the spot.
Yeah.
Well,
you came up with one that you
I came
repeated
up with
several
one
times.
that I just repeated 1,000 times.
It was so funny.
Awful.
And I'm like, I'm not going to lead the witness here. I have some
No.
thoughts, but
Well,
yeah.
right. And so if it had been a different sort of situation where you had led me a little bit, I could have come out with a lot more things that I think are really good qualities, you know? But in the moment, without more of a back and forth, which you did exactly what you were supposed to do, right?
Mhm.
So, but in a different sort of situation,
Mm-hmm.
you could have drawn a lot more out of me.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I really almost did. And then I was like, okay, I kind of
I
wrestled.
don't think no, I
Yeah.
think it was because, again, even though the honest answer is I think I have a lot of great qualities,
Mm-hmm.
it's still my reaction to that question
Yep.
in the moment without preparing, I think was also truly authentic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, and it kind
So,
of, I don't know if it's related to this at all. Um, but that whole don't look at me or I don't
mhm,
know.
yeah.
Like I want you to look at me, but also don't look at me. Like it's just so, and also to your other question about what would it be, what would constitute just kind of coming up blank or feeling like there's a little bit of a vacancy when you're asked to describe something about yourself. I have wondered, and I don't know that this is the full answer. I think it could be so many things because we're so complex as humans, but I have wondered if it is an attachment thing to some degree because I feel like the attachment types don't really, they try to avoid being located in
Mhm,
certain ways. Like you're not going to pin me down.
mhm.
Right. And so it's kind of like, I'm right here. And then somebody's like, oh, so you're here. And you're like, oh, it's kind of over here. I mean, like,
Well, yeah, and the image that just came to mind for me when you said that, and I haven't thought about this before, is like playing tag almost. Like, and I'm gonna jump out of the way at the last second, just as you're like,
yes,
you
yes.
know,
Yep.
um, yeah, but it's not conscious, right? I
No,
mean, it's totally
totally.
unconscious. Yeah.
Totally unconscious. At least, yeah, for me, I'm sure for you too. I'm sure
Mhm.
almost everyone. So,
Mhm.
because yeah, it's, I feel like the desire of my heart is like, no, I want to be like fully known and experienced in all these things, but how I show up can be counter to that.
Mhm.
But also it
Yeah.
goes back to, again, that could be for so many different reasons, like protecting yourself, right? That's too vulnerable. And so we're really smart. And, we, there's reasons that we have, um, safeguards against certain things. And there's reason that we get our hackles up and there's reasons that we are like, run away or freeze
Mhm.
or, any of those sorts of responses. And it's anyway, so that's just super, super complex and deep.
Yeah. But I mean, okay, so you said that you kind of you had a roundabout way of answering, when you
Mhm.
were doing your own typing video. I mean, like, so did you feel kind of put on the spot with all of the questions, or were there some that were harder for you to answer than others?
Yeah. There were definitely some that were harder than others. Um, I felt put on the spot by all of them, even though again, I hadn't prepared, quote unquote, gotten
Sure.
answers written down, but I did read through the questions first, just to kind of know what was coming down the pike. But I can't remember that. Okay. So the best and worst quality thing, that was one of those that it was very hard, but um, I think part of that was feeling a little bit of like, okay, I don't, me and my fear of I'm overly verbose, right? And so I feel like I could kind of say this, and then that kind of links to this, and then that kind of could be this, and it's like, okay, we've asked for literally one best and worst thing, and you've given us five or whatever. So it was more like, how do I like really nail what I feel like would be the quote unquote best or worst? That's really hard, kind of depends on the day or the
Mhm.
year
Yeah.
or
Yeah. Yeah.
whatever. So that was hard. And it was, I'll tell you what was interesting and what's coming to me right now is the difference between, um, when like, what's your most ideal place to live in the world? And you were like, Paris, you're like, oh, that's easy. And in my video, I think I said, this is a really hard question. This is really hard for me to answer. And I meant that because I don't think I envision like a specific city or whatever. I just think about how I want to like feel and so as I started to kind of think about that, I'm like, well, it kind of depends on who I'm with because that's very important to me and like the people around me. And I could point to specific examples of like places I've lived in where, I didn't have as strong of connections versus places I did and things like that. And then I started to think about like settings I like, so I was like, I love being near water, la, la, la. So all those things like,
Yeah.
so that was another, like, I'm going to talk around this question because I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure. So anyway, yeah, I thought it was all hard because I don't know, just a lot of the things that we've already shared about it just being hard to nail down.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, again, I don't really know how to even, so I just keep thinking like fuzzy. It's just like fuzz. And like, I need for things to be fuzzy or things feel fuzzy to me when someone's trying to pin me down. I'm not even sure how to articulate that because it's more like it's a felt sense and not something I can really describe. But
well, they say, and we've talked a little bit about this. I think that was on the empathy episode, and you talked about feeling fuzzy sometimes. And we went into Enneagram 9 stuff, which again, we don't know if you're actually a 9. You've been getting lots of guesses, people saying core 6, which would be quite surprising to me. But I mean, I'm not surprised by that much anymore, to be perfectly honest with you, when it comes to typings. But that I would be a little bit of a surprise. So we'll see. But anyway, kind of related to that, like that fuzzy quality, they say that with 9s, it's kind of like trying to like grab a cloud.
which I love because I love being likened to a cloud.
Yes. I don't know what I'm likened to, spastic.
Well, no, I would liken you to a cloud, like on the astrology side anyway. Gemini, air sign, ideas, and I don't know. That's cloudy to me in a good way.
Yeah. I do. That is funny because, well, now I'm tangenting for a second. I'm not gonna go here very long, but the Gemini thing, of course, I don't know much about astrology at all. All I knew was like, your basic sun sign and you read your horoscope, blah, blah, blah. And I never really read that consistently, but anytime I would, I was like, okay. Or if I read a little bit about what Gemini, I was like, I don't know. I don't really know. That sounds like me. But as you kind of go a little bit deeper into it and get more, I don't know, advanced descriptions or whatever, and you bring in like your other rising sign and like all of these different things, I'm like, I can kind of see that a little bit, but definitely the whole communication and ideas and that does feel resonant. So anyway.
Yeah. Oh gosh. I could totally go off on a little tangent right now with that sort of stuff.
Go for it.
Well, I feel like, so I know I said this, but I can't remember if I cut it out or if it actually made it would have been one of our first episodes. But so sometimes the same planet is linked to multiple signs of the zodiac. And so Mercury is Gemini's sign or Gemini's planet, but it's also Virgo's planet. And Virgo is my rising sign. So.
Oh, that's no, JK, just never mind. Go ahead. I think it's in that little, I have Virgo something in that human design, Gene Keys thing you did for me.
Probably, yeah.
Anyway, go ahead. So I was going to say it's my moon, but it's not. So, okay. Virgo is your rising. And it's connected to Mercury.
So yes. So Mercury is the planet for both Virgo and Gemini. So even though we're different sun signs, totally, whatever, different in a lot of ways, we both have this planet that's very key in our charts. And that doesn't surprise me I think it probably plays out differently, but again, like charts are so complicated and there's just like so much, but I just find that really interesting that it's
Yeah.
so important for both of us, but also not surprising based
Yeah.
on, what we're kind of both into, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So now I have a question about that. So did you say every sign is linked to a specific planet?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, there is a planet that rules each sign of the zodiac.
Okay.
Some signs have the same planet.
How do I want to, I don't know how to word this because I don't really know much about astrology. So this may not make sense. Okay. You've got your sun, your moon, your rising sign.
Hmm.
Does it matter if, like, so for instance, like your Virgo is connected to Mercury as the planet, but it's a rising sign? Does that play out different versus if it were your sun sign or your moon or your whatever? Does that?
Yeah, no, that question makes sense. And I think so. Um, but I couldn't explain it.
Mhm.
So I'm not gonna try.
Yeah, that's fine.
But I think it would play out differently. Well, so first of all, like, so Gemini is an air sign,
Mhm.
which has its own set of meanings. Virgo is an earth sign.
Okay.
So, the energies would play out differently.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I can't
Yeah,
describe it
I know
because
what you mean.
I'm not, um, yeah, I'm not expert enough by any means to try to teach about it. But I think it would play out differently. And again, based on what else you have going on in your chart. But yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gosh, all of that is so complicated, but very, very fascinating. And again, one of those things that I'm like, oh boy, that would
Yeah.
I would go down a rabbit hole and I
It's
don't
so,
want to say waste time because it wouldn't be a waste, but like, oh boy, that would be an extensive deep dive.
mhm.
Um,
Yeah,
so
for sure. Yeah. But so, like, even though, so my sun is in Capricorn, my moon is in Capricorn, my rising is in Virgo, all three earth signs.
mm,
Um,
oh,
Capricorn. So I sent you this thing. I don't know if we're going to keep this stuff, but it's fine if we do, it's fine if we don't. So I sent you those screenshots of those card pulls yesterday.
yeah.
Um, Capricorn, did you see the name for Capricorn? Like
I
the
don't
archetype name?
I
The
don't
boss.
remember. Oh my gosh, that's funny. No, I don't remember seeing that.
Yeah. That is Capricorn energy. Ambition, which is hilarious because I couldn't answer that question. Structure, all that kind of stuff. That's Capricorn. And that's really big for me, right? Virgo is like perfectionism and details and whatever, which does play out for me too. But I also have like three planets in Libra, which is called the peacemaker.
Oh, funny.
Hmm. Um, I'm sure there are different names, just like with Enneagram numbers, but yeah,
Yeah,
Libra
yeah,
is
yeah.
like the peacemaker, scales, balance.
Okay, so when you say like Gemini is an air sign and these other ones are earth signs or anything that you could pull out and this is a fire and whatever,
Mhm.
um how does that color, or what's the right word, something like, how does that show up, like the fact that you have three earth signs, or like practically speaking, like if you had more air signs? Or I don't actually know, I mean, I don't know what mine are besides the Gemini's the air, and then I've got Leo rising,
Yeah,
which I don't know what that is.
fire, I believe.
Okay, and then I've got Aries moon.
Yeah, fire.
Both of them?
Mhm.
Oh,
Pretty sure Leo is a fire.
that
Aries
makes sense.
definitely is. And well, so here, okay. Again, I don't know enough. Like I'm not the person to answer questions in an intelligent way. But so like Aries, fire sign, momentum, right? Powerful, that whole thing. But Aries, I believe, is also a cardinal sign. Cardinal means the beginning of a new season.
Hmm.
And that is more like initiation sort of energy as well, which Capricorn is.
Hmm.
And so if I link this also to human design, there are things in your chart that can kind of show you like that initiative and like starting new things, just as an example. And then if it's fire, it's going to have like this certain like energy that's bold and fiery, right?
Gotcha.
And again, I guess how that plays out is going to be different for each one of the signs that is in an element or in, so it's like cardinal, fixed, and mutable are the other category, if you will. And I think Gemini is mutable. I'm not positive about that. Mutable means changes easily, adaptable. Fixed is like exactly what you would imagine. More stationary, more rigid, I guess. I'm not sure if that's the appropriate way to characterize it. And then cardinal is like, again, like that initiating, getting started, sort of.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's hugely complicated. And if you go back to Enneagram with the different triads and how the different energies and the lines, you know, moving from one number to another, et cetera, it's so complex.
Yeah.
And you can't just take like your sun sign, for example, it's not in a vacuum. You know, all of these other energies are going to impact how, I guess, you show up through your sun sign. Just like, you can't just say someone's an Enneagram 6 and like everything's fully defined, because
correct,
you're going to have a different instinctual stacking. You're going to be maybe moving toward one number or another, or, you know, are you kind of stuck in your types, you know, primary center of intelligence or whatever? I don't know. But, you know, each person's going to show up differently.
Totally.
Even if they're the same number. So even if you're the same sun sign, et cetera, which I know you understand all that stuff, but.
Yeah, that's really cool. See, that's another. So we've been wanting to talk more about human design on the pod, which we did a little bit with Carrie and Dominique. We might be able to either have them back on or flesh out human design a little bit more. But astrology would be good too. So
it would. We need somebody who actually knows what they're talking about versus me.
Oh, definitely than me. Yeah, for sure.
Wow. Soulmates to typing videos to
I know.
astrology.
I love it. And that'll be great. Like, I think I like the ones that have the multiple things, because one, I think it's kind of interesting to see how we end up getting from one place to the next, but also I think it offers a sampler. And so if people aren't necessarily interested in hearing us talk about astrology, but they're really curious to hear about soulmates or whatever. You know?
Yeah. Once again, demonstrating how we are so curious about a number of different things, but not that knowledgeable about a lot of them either. Like, we want to learn. We promise. We just don't have all the answers yet.
We are curious creatures.
Yeah. Definitely. So, Mercury influence.
Oh, that's right. And you know, I'm just thrilled that I only cried a little bit.
I cried more than you did.
I think you may have. Well, if you want to factor in earlier today, I think I win.
Yeah. If we're talking about the whole day, probably, because I only teared up a couple of times before.
Oh, I was sobbing at my kitchen table. I was like, oh, okay, might as well get all this out.
Yeah, that's right. Gosh.
Yeah.
What is it? That emotional wave, man. Emotions, period.
Yes.
Heart center.
I know. Boo.
I know.
Yeah, it's
I
rough.
know. And over the heart.
It's really, really, yeah. It's rough. This once again feels very complete. I very much enjoyed our conversation today, and I'm glad that we ended up here, there, and everywhere. So
Yeah, so am I. It feels good. I wish that I knew what I would, was talking about more. I don't want to be seen as incompetent, Emma, and I feel every time I just open my mouth.
Well, I'm not going to see you that way, because to me, I know zero, or almost close to zero, about astrology. So you could have said anything and I would have been like, oh, cool. Oh, I know very, very little. So
Oh, well, thank you for your acceptance, your blind acceptance.
yeah, see, what's that about? That doesn't really see, that's another
That's not like
contradictory
you.
thing. That's a contradictory thing, right? For Enneagram 6. But that's the thing, is both can be true. It's like,
Yeah.
you're this or this. It's like, which side of the coin are we going to go with?
Yep.
Anyway,
That's right.
yes, you typically get my blind trust. However, unless you're trying to speak affirmations and all of these kind things over me and trying to reassure me about things that I've already decided are, not on the table or not part of my skill set or any of this stuff. And then I'm like, I don't know if I believe you. Are you sure? But when you speak hard truths, I'm like, you're right. Yeah.
Well, it's so funny, like this, which side of the coin is it? It's like you are so like, no, I don't believe you. But then also you're so open-minded.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy. And I don't know, I haven't totally figured out that process in myself. Like, this is a curious combination.
It's a beautiful combination.
You, Lisa. I do receive that.
So like that thing I sent you yesterday, compliment, question mark, question mark. You didn't ask for it, but there is a compliment for you today. And I mean it genuinely as a compliment.
Thank you. Yeah, I do. I received that. Yeah, we're just gonna, whenever we're feeling a little blue, we're just gonna be like, compliment, question mark. What you got for me today? How you gonna hype me up? So anyway,
I love it.
But all right.
Well, thank you. Thank you for these very unexpected tangents. I have really enjoyed it.
You're quite welcome. Thank you.
Pleasure cruise. Sorry, I just wanted to make it a little awkward.
We have to say something in every episode. Anyway, we can be enticing. We will do that.
Right. Highly coveted every time.
Highly coveted and adored.
Yep.
All right. Okay, friend. Well,
thank you.
Thank you. And I'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.
Ta-ta.
Hey, let's get it.
Thanks for hanging with us through today's tangents. We hope you enjoyed the show. We'll be back again soon, but meanwhile, you can follow along with us on Instagram at No Tangents. We would love it if you would subscribe and maybe even consider leaving us a review, a highly complimentary one.
No topic, keep it going, no, don't stop it. Don't get the picture, then we crap it. With no emotion, what's the logic? We just lost in our thoughts.